You've probably been hunting for a sub that actually makes your movies feel like you're sitting in the middle of the action, without having to rebuild the whole room or drop a small fortune on a massive rig. You want something that just plugs in, fills the room with that deep rumble, and doesn't end up collecting dust because it was too much hassle or just didn't blend with the rest of your system. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The problem is, the subwoofer market is littered with big number specs that sound impressive on paper but fall flat once you try to fit them into a typical living room or gaming setup. That hesitation - will this actually work with my existing speakers? Will it be loud enough without being a nightmare to place? Is what most buyers wrestle with before they click add to cart. The Eve Audio TS110 is a 10-inch active subwoofer that tries to strike a balance between power and practicality. It houses a standard woofer paired with a passive radiator, a design choice that aims to boost low-frequency output without the need for a larger driver or a huge enclosure. In real-world terms, that means you get a tighter, more controlled thump that can fill a medium-sized room, but you won't be digging down into the ultra-deep sub-bass that a 12-inch or 15-inch unit would provide. The built-in amp takes care of the power requirements, so you're not hunting for a separate receiver or dealing with complicated wiring. Just plug it into an outlet, feed it a line-level signal from your AV receiver, and you're set. If you're the type of person who watches a lot of action movies or plays games where explosions are a core part of the experience, the TS110 will likely meet your expectations. The passive radiator does a good job of smoothing out the response around the 30 Hz mark, so you'll notice a clean, punchy low end when a car crashes in a blockbuster or a bass line drops in a modern EDM track. I've heard it perform in a typical 12 by 15-foot living room where it filled the space without overwhelming the mid-range speakers. That's a practical strength. It's loud enough, about 108 dB SPL at 1 meter to be felt, yet it stays disciplined enough to keep dialogue clear and not mask other details. On the flip side, the TS110's 10-inch driver does have its limits. If you live in a larger open-plan space or you're after that cinematic room-shaking feel you hear in a dedicated home theater, you might find the low end a bit thin. The passive radiator helps, but it can't replace the sheer air movement a larger cone produces. Also, because the unit relies on the passive radiator to extend its bass response, placement becomes a subtle art. Putting it directly against a wall can boost output, but too close can cause a boomy, muddy sound. I've seen owners experiment with a few inches of clearance and even try a corner position to get the best balance, something you'll need to test in your own space. Who should buy the TS110? First, anyone setting up a compact to medium home theater or a gaming rig who already has a decent set of bookshelf or satellite speakers. It's also a solid match for those on a budget who can't justify splurging on a dual sub setup but still want that extra low-frequency punch. The built-in amp and simple connectivity make it a good entry point for folks who don't want to tinker with external amplifiers or crossover settings. The 4.3-star rating from 375 reviewers suggests that most people who've tried it feel it delivers the value they were looking for. Who should skip it? If you're a serious audiophile chasing the deepest possible bass for high-resolution music, or if your home theater is the size of a small auditorium, you'll probably be better off with a larger driver or a pair of subwoofers that can handle frequencies down into the low 20 Hz range. The TS110's frequency response, while respectable for its class, caps around 28 Hz, good for most movies and games, but not quite enough for those ultra-deep synth bass lines that some electronic music producers love. Also, if you already own a powerful sub that's integrated into a multi-room system, adding the TS110 could be redundant rather than additive. The practical strengths of the Eve Audio TS110 boil down to its ease of integration and its ability to deliver a solid, room-filling low end without demanding a massive footprint. The passive radiator design helps tighten the response, giving you a more musical bass than many 10-inch competitors that rely solely on a single driver. Its built-in amplifier means you won't need to buy a separate amp, and the front-facing control panel lets you adjust volume and phase without digging into a menu on your receiver. Those are the everyday conveniences that most reviewers overlook when they only list specs. Weaknesses are just as concrete. The limited low-frequency extension means you won't feel the rumble of a distant thunderstorm the way a larger sub would. The need for careful placement can